Luck is one of my skills. I'm Chris Spivey.
And I'm Eddie Webb.
And today we're here to talk about Macross Plus. Not Macross 2, but Macross Plus. Eddie's not even surprised anymore when I choose to do a quote that I have not written down. Now he's like, it's whatever.
Well, it's gotten to the point now where I saw that quote. It's like, that's not the one you're going to say. No, I know you. That's not the quote you're going to lead with.
That's a good one. Well, did you expect me to say luck is one of my skills? Is my quote?
To be fair, no, I didn't expect to say that specific one, but I knew it wasn't going to be 100-hour travel books aren't worth a real trip. That's just you being an old man bitching about money these days.
Well, so all right, it was hard to find a quote for this OVA. I'm not gonna lie, but when I heard that when I was walking through it, I was like, that's not only a quote, but that is a real fact of my existence.
Right.
Mind you, a lot of my luck is bad, but still, it is a form of luck.
So before we dig into this, I think something I didn't realize until it was way too late is I think we may have inadvertently watched different versions.
Did you watch the movie?
No. You watched the one on Hulu, right?
I watched one on the accursed Disney Plus because I still have Disney Plus.
Okay, right. Same thing.
Because I'm a parent.
Fair enough. I don't have access to that, and so I downloaded a copy that was sourced from the original Betamax tapes, which was hilarious to me. So I said, yeah, sure, watch that. But I found out after I watched them all that apparently episode 4 was completely re-recorded.
So the American version of it was because there was some sort of like legal rights issue, so they had to like re-record all of episode 4. Because originally in the U.S. version they had Bryan Cranston as a voice of Dyson,
right?
But episode 4 they had to redo it. So you watched the English version?
No, I watched the version from the Manga Entertainment VHS version, but which is imported to the UK. Yes,
this could be interesting because I watched the one that was. All right. So we'll see what happens this episode. I almost pulled the trigger because I didn't watch this till last night. I know you're shocked, Eddie. Yeah, but I was shocked. Like, shit, we're recording tomorrow. I've got to watch this OVA right now.
Right. And usually when these kinds of things happen, like we talked about it a bit with Neon Evangelion, is that they'll re-record like the whole thing. And it's usually pretty clear, this is a new version. Because that was the big thing Netflix promoted as somehow being a feature of like, we have a whole new audio cast, because I talked about the translations are a separate rights issue from the video at times. So when this happened, I glanced at it and it was like, it has more or less stayed the same through all of its English derivations. It won't matter which version I watched them, but then I found out, oh no, just one episode was changed, which is I've never heard of before. And it wasn't even like
the last
subtitles.
Episode, that's massive.
Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, I've certainly plenty of times been like, okay, no, the translations have changed. And usually like, okay, if it's like it's all in Japanese, but have different subtitles. Okay. Usually we can work around that because the nuances of different translations of subtitles are not a problem. But again, like, this is the music's different. The acting is different. So I think we'll be fine, but I wanted to mention that up front also just because it was such a weird trivia note for this whole show. And it's indicative of, I think, the whole show. The whole show is like just a bit weird in terms of how it was made and what it's doing.
So I have never seen this before. And to give you an idea of how little I knew about this, I knew the deal with pilots, but I thought the two pilots were Lone and Dyson, not Bowman. I didn't even know there was a Bowman character. That is how little I knew about this going into it.
Fair enough. Only thing I knew is that one of the pilots was half Centrati because that was a whole thing in fandom at the time.
All right, then. Since you brought up Bowman specifically, can we go ahead? What color is Bowman supposed to be? Because I'm watching this thing. He's brown. He's purple. He's green. He's a light brown. He's white. inconsistent throughout the entire thing. Like,
So I admit, like, when I first noticed his color changing, I thought because especially during this era of anime, you do see animators trying to play with color in different ways. Like, the lighting in the color in the area is different. So that changes how people look. Akira is actually a pretty solid example because a couple of times Akira were like red lights are coming down. Um, and that changes how people look. Neon Evangelion also did the same thing, where like different lighting comes up, so everyone's color changes. And so I thought, okay, I think that's what they're doing here. But you're right; it just seems like it's only Bowman that seems to go through that problem.
yeah,
Um, and so like for a while, I was like,
a
is
lot.
he half Centrati? And then like finally gets spelled out. I was like, okay, fine. But like while I was like going, do you just not know what brown people look like? And that's the problem here, right?
I don't know. Is he supposed to be brown? I remember the original TV series. Not all the Zentradi were brown. They were different race Zentradis,
Right.
and
Yeah. Because
they were different colored Zentradis. So
right.
that's, or is he like a oh, what were they called? Like a mood ring? His color changes based on what mood he's in.
Right, and then on top of it, we have kind of this weird case because in the 90s, we got Robotech, as we've already talked about, and you've already talked about at length, and then we got Macross 2. So, like, I don't know how much of sorry, Macross Plus. No, we did get Macross 2, but it was like no one paid attention to it. We got Macross Plus, and, like, so I don't know how much of the translation was nudged towards Robotech. Right? It's like makes people see that connection. How much is this a pure entirely accurate to what was being said? Like, I don't know, right? I don't know if like the half centrati thing introduced in the English translation to stitch it to Robotech. That's all there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in my head where it's like, because this is the weird time in fandom where people are starting to recognize and be interested in Japanese media in and of itself rather than as a way to get cheap animation for American cartoons. But we
Yeah.
hadn't quite completely gone to let's do faithful translations yet, as we've seen by some of our other 90s anime stuff, um, Bubble Crisis and whatnot. So it's like it's kind of in a weird zone. Like it felt very Robotech to me, but it didn't have the Robotech thing because they didn't have the rights to Robotech. It's like how much of this is them just trying to be Robotech without having to pay the guy who had the Robotech license, and how much of this is just Macross was always kind of like this, and Robotech was relatively faithful, weirdly, to the translation. I don't know. I genuinely don't know this.
Well, then how about we start like this? Because Macross 2 came out before Macross Plus, and it didn't have anything to do with the original creator, whose name I can't pronounce because I'm always bad with the names. So
Shota Calamari?
Karamuri? Kalamari, thank you. It didn't have anything to do with Kalamari, and it was not well received.
Mhm.
Kalamari got a whole bunch of money if he came back and made a new series. And he said, I'd make a new series if I could have a whole new cast of characters. And they said, go for it. And they gave like a shit ton of money, like a massive amount of money, which you can even tell in this OVA as we're watching it right now still.
Sure, yeah.
And then he retconned Macross 2 into like its own alternate Macross universe.
Right.
And originally this was supposed to have been a movie, but was turned into a TV series instead and then revised into a movie. So there's like multiple iterations of it already from the start.
Right. And uh I'll talk about this now because we're not talking about Macross Plus immediately, but um my first thought was when we talked about the Mobile Gundam movie, we both said this needed to be a longer OVA. This needs more room to breathe. This needs, this is clearly more room. And so this was like, okay, well, this is obviously the answer to that, right? It's like this was a movie. It was expanded out to 4 episodes. And then watching it, I was like, yeah, it probably could have been a movie, you know?
Now that we've watched it, I think we should have watched the movie version because the movie version should have been, I think, a little bit tighter, but I think it also avoided some of the subplots of the characters.
Right,
Which now, having seen the subplots of the characters, I can understand why that would have been truncated down. Probably part of me wants to
right.
watch the movie now just to compare the two. But the other time, if I didn't have time to watch this before the show until last night, it's not like I have time now to go back and watch a movie just for fun.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The other weird part is while this was being made, it was also being made in parallel to Macross 7, and these 2 have nothing to do with each other. They're like, I think, different visual styles, different stories completely.
Right, as I understand it, Macross fandom is by no way, shape, or form my knowledge spot, but as I understand it, the difference between Mobile Suit Gundam and Macross in the '80s and early '90s was, Mobile Suit tried very hard to keep everything continuity until eventually they just gave up, and like, "Fine, we have splinter continuities now," and Macross splintered pretty much immediately. And it was just like just a massive multiverse of Macross stuff, because they basically kind of wanted to tell slightly different takes in the same story in different ways. They're not quite remakes. Again, like this is 30 years after the original Macross, but because the later two Robotech series aren't actually Macross series, those are not in continuity with this. So it's a whole. It's It's Kingdom Knights. I mean, it's Zelda. It's a mess of continuity. It's the Marvel universe. Trying to keep track of it, as I understand, is just not worth it.
Oh, all right. So where's I going with this?
Mm.
The the OVA itself was groundbreaking just from the animation style and how it sort of combined traditional cell and computer generated animation together at the time of release altogether, which even watching it now was super cool to see.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to imagine what it would have been like to see when it was dropped in the 90s, how breathtaking that would have been, especially if you got to see it in one of the limited releases in the theater.
yeah, I totally see that. Um, uh, I remember we watched one of the Ghosts in the Shell, and that also had computer animation, and that came out like '99 ish, like a couple years after this, and it didn't look as good as this, honestly.
No. But they could have also been trying to adhere more to the Matrix model, and I doubt they had the same amount of money they got for this. Like,
Sure, right.
oh, they don't even I tried to do a quick Google search for it. They don't even say how much money they got. They just like it was a shit ton. And they left it at that everywhere I looked. Shit ton, shit ton. It's like
Fair enough.
so much so that one of the things, because they wanted to get a realistic depiction of some of the more intense flight scenes. So a couple of them actually traveled to Edwards Air Force Base and watched different training sessions there. So that's how they started modeling. Even some of the planes themselves were based on the models of planes they saw at Edwards Air Force Base. And Eden is based on San Francisco.
I was wondering that, although this is actually cooler than my supposition, um, because my supposition was who on this animation team was really into Top Gun?
That's a note I have in there. And it's not top it feels like Top Gun 2 went and saw this movie and then they gave Tom Cruise something to do because this movie saw Tom Cruise's first Top Gun movie.
Right, but specifically, I mean, not only that, but also the fact that it's very California based. Um, that very specific Air Force Base down the West Coast vibe to everything. So finding out that was intentional, they went to Edwards, which is based in California, I believe, and made it look like San Francisco. It seems like they got to the same place, but I was coming from a different perspective.
But you also have like Dyson, who's riding his motorcycle on the base. Kind of how if you watch Top Gun, Tom Cruise riding his motorcycle on the base,
Hmm.
being the rebel hothead that he is, like Dyson being the rebel hothead he is.
Right? No, totally. I was like, there's. I mean, there may still be Top Gun vibes from this, and they just decided to go to the source to get better info. Both these could be true, um,
Bowman
but
is basically
certainly,
Iceman.
yeah, yeah, totally right. It's very much two test pilots who are rivals or trying to prove that they're the better test pilot, do test pilot things. It's like, yeah, I've seen this movie, I get it, but it has giant robots, so like, I'm cool, I'm into it.
So, and the more I think about it now, looking at the design of Bowman, coloration aside, he does look a little bit like Val Kilmer from Top Gun.
Oh, I can see that. The jaw, I can see the jaw like
Yeah.
that.
Huh. Now that'll be like a whole thing. Now I feel like we should have watched Top Gun just so we could compare the two.
Top Gun and the movie version of this, which is better? Go.
I would still probably say this because it is giant mecha, and I like giant mecha.
Right.
I don't like. Okay, I will stop the delving into my comparison of Tom Cruise and Dyson I was about to get into. Um, so much so that even like the Advanced Technical Fighter program from the 80s is what they base this Project Supernova on. It's like they went there and they said, "This is all the stuff that you've done. We're just going to turn it into the anime version and run with it." And I'm more surprised that the government was okay with it. It's like, just go ahead, do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it is weird because now we know that the U.S. government has a very strong opinion and strong hold on what gets put on movies, and in fact, rather infamously, they were heavily involved in the production of the Transformers movies, which is only 10 years after this.
Yeah.
So how much of it was them going, "Oh, no one will ever see it in the US, so we don't care," right? And how much of it they didn't understand what was being asked of them, maybe there was a language barrier.
Or
Uh,
it's I think your first point feels more like on point with me because looking at it from the 90s perspective, how anime had slowly been filtering into the US, they might have been like, it's a cartoon. Nobody cares about that.
yeah, that's a good point, yeah, mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Especially, I mean, now that you say that, because I know Hasbro had relationships with the US military for GI Joe. So, it could have been they it's like, you guys make a cartoon like GI Joe, cool," and they probably just meant to put it in that slot in their head, right?
Yeah, because I'm willing to bet there was not like an anime specialist at the time that they were
Right,
working
right.
with. There. Yeah,
That'd be funny.
that'd be awesome though. So yeah, a lot of the landscape stuff is based on San Francisco, which also served as sort of the backdrop for Frontier City in Macross Frontier. And now I kind of want to watch Macross Frontier. I would be willing to go and do like a whole Macross series, regardless of how I feel about this film, because this is like my style of mecha that I like. I like this more so than I like the Gundam super mechas. Maybe it's more the realistic vibe to it because they're not realistic; they have a realistic vibe.
It's interesting. Um, I think the difference for me, I have not only watched exactly 2 bits of Macross Media. Um, I think the difference for me is that, Mobile Suit Gundam is really into, we are serious military robots doing serious military robot things, and it's almost embarrassed of being silly dumb robots, except for the occasional moments when, like Gundam Wing, where it's like, yeah, okay, fine. For this one time, we'll let ourselves have silly fun robots, but we're also going to make sure that all of these characters have PTSD for some fucking reason. Um, so you can't have everything. And whereas Macross is like, this is just cool, and we're I think to your point, like, the vibes are more realistic, not in the sense of this is gritty reality, but
No,
rather more, yes, we have also seen the same military films that you have, and so we're going to homage those.
yeah,
So it's not completely out there Voltron style super robot where it's basically just nothing matters and everything is just fun because you're punching things. This is the no, we want to cleave something closer to reality, but still show that this is cool and fun and exciting. Whereas occasionally, Mobile Suit is like, no, it should be dark and evil and bad because people should hate war. And it's like, I get it. I also hate war, right? I'm with you. But also, it'd be cool if the robot actually did something. If turn to a plane or stick its legs out, something cool.
and I wholeheartedly agree, actually. And I think part of it though for me is the concept of the Gundams having like the super weapon that obliterates planets, obliterates everything with one
Right,
shot doesn't resonate for what I'm looking for, I think, in a mecha, where I want to see them like have dogfights or mecha fights that are
right.
cool and expansive and it's based more on skill than I am genetically altered to be the best pilot in the world. Instead,
You
I'm
know,
trained to be the best pilot.
Right, honestly, and actually, I think that helped me to figure out the difference. In Mobile Suit Gundam, mecha are tanks. In Macross, mecha are planes.
Yeah.
From how people react to them are fundamentally different. A tank is I'm going to use my powerful weapons to grind you into the dirt because it's artillery and they shoot things and you get the ground down. Whereas Macross is like, look at cool dogfighting and flying through the air and big heightened egos, right? So like they're pilots versus tank drivers.
Yeah. So I would say that I'm definitely more in the pilot persuasion for what I'm looking for.
Right. I find that I do like bits and pieces of Mobile Suit Gundam, but really it is I like Mobile Suit Gundam when it's trying really hard not to be Mobile Suit Gundam. So that's maybe not a great endorsement. Whereas everything you have shown me through this Macross, it's like, so I'll be honest. We got to this one after the last two. I was like, do I actually like mecha? I think we had this conversation again in our last mecha run. We're like halfway through. I was like, do I actually like this genre? And then I watched like the first 5 minutes of this. Like, oh nope, never mind. I do like this.
Yeah. So, well, that's another thing. There's so much of it now. It's trying to find the right balance of mecha versus what we. Well, really, I think I could safely say for us, it's the childhood love of it that we have, coupled with where we are now and what it's presenting to us. So, like that, three things need to be perfectly balanced to really hit the right spot.
Right. Right.
The wind farms. The fact that it seems to start with I love it. I loved them so much. I like it brought me a sense of glee even when I watched it. What I didn't know though is that they were based on more California that they got from the Central Valley in California. Like they saw it, and they're like, "Ooh, we can put this in there too."
Yeah. Um, it also seemed like you, you mentioned San Francisco, and it also felt like maybe San Francisco, maybe LA, and specifically like the way they showed a couple long shots of highways, which is a very American. I mean, there's the autobahn and whatnot, but those big like 3-4 lane each direction highways seems to be more common in American vibe media, and so I was like, that feels like a California highway to me.
Hmm. All right, I'm I'm I've got my notes up here that I'm referencing more since I am not as familiar with this as I would normally. Uh, they could not let me have a Macross that we've seen without fucking Lin Min Mei in it. So Lin Min Mei's song pops up in the karaoke bar, so it's there. I can't avoid Lin Min Mei when I come to Macross.
So I hate to be the one to tell you this, Chris. If you're gonna watch more Macross, people singing is a thing in Macross. Just so you know, it's officially a trope.
I'm okay with it to some extent, but I really don't like Lin Min Mei, and even now, even in retrospect, I don't like Lin Min Mei.
Well, I mean, and we talked about her specifically as a character because it's her role, the role of her, which is basically music will unify us and bring us together, and that's it. It just feels very flat. I do have to say, like, that we'll get to it when we get to it, but like here, I felt how they approached music was better and more interesting and
Yeah.
nuanced. Whereas Minmay was just she was just this weird, idealistic one note character that the universe just kind of agreed with, and she was never challenged on that front. And she was right, objectively right. Music did in fact unify the universe. And it's like
But they
that's
also made her like a
dumb.
bad person too on top of
Right,
it. And so
right,
that's like the
right.
part I can't.
Yeah, she's spoiled and kind of arrogant, even though she comes across as sweet. Yeah, but anyway, we've talked about Moon before. Um,
Yeah.
but certainly when I started watching this, I was like, I saw that there's music involved. I'm like, is this just a Macross thing? And so I did a quick look up that, and it's like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's just Macross involves someone will be a singer and music is a thing. That is just Macross.
Well, I think I mentioned it when we talked about Robotech. Is that one of the big things they did? They would have like comedians and musicians come out and play for soldiers out there because
Right.
that's how you boost
Mhm.
morale and everything else. It's important. So I'm all for it, just not that part.
Fair enough.
The SDF one. Oh,
Oh, it was
Eddie. Oh, It was glorious. I love seeing it, and I think this is the only other Macross thing where it actually shows up in. Is some of the notes I read.
Right. Yeah. It was rough looking, but it was there. And the way that they framed the SDF-1 and talked about it, and because they're like, one of the subplots of this is the 30th anniversary of the SDF-1, and they had the logo, and a couple times even they actually had 30th anniversary stuff. And I was like, is this actually an anniversary year from Macross? It's not. It was just to sell it, but it was so prevalent. I would have been completely unsurprised if this had genuinely been the 30th anniversary of the cartoon, right? And they just put it into the world. It's not. It's
I
just
thought it was like wasn't it like a 10th anniversary though? This is only 4. I
everything.
refuse to do Google searching while we're recording. Unlike you, I'm gonna say it
I
was the 10th anniversary, probably the 10th anniversary of Robotech.
Sure. Okay.
I
Everything
think Robotech was 83 or 84, and this is like
right.
94.
No, it's 97. Pretty
Well,
sure. Anyway, point is,
I'm not gonna Google it.
What little I looked up, it did not imply it was the anniversary. The only celebration stuff was like the original creator's back and he's taking it in a new direction, which is code for saying we fucked up. So like, it, but it wasn't like it had the same vibes of the when on the Patreon episode, which we did release into the main feed, of the Doctor Who special that wasn't an anniversary but felt a whole lot like an anniversary.
Yeah.
With the Spy Master and the 13th Doctor. And the whole time I was saying, this feels like a big dumb anniversary special, but it actually isn't. This is kind of the same thing of like, this feels like it's a celebration of things not actually celebrating. So it was interesting because the SDF-1, you're right. I don't think it comes back, but there was such a big deal made about it inside the OVA that it felt almost like, remember this thing you love? It's only 10 years ago. I don't have nostalgia for it yet. Give us a minute.
I would honestly say that, like, I'm not a big toy collector, but I would love to have a replica of the SDF-1. Like, that is something I would love to have and have. I don't know where I put it because it should be huge, but
Was there ever a toy made of it?
I don't know because I don't Google in the middle of recording, Eddie. If people could see me, I'm staring at Eddie intently right now on our video call as he's Googling. There's also a manga.
As a pretty common code, so it's hard to find.
There's also a manga of, I think it's actually called like the Macross. At least in this, it's called Macross SDF-1. There's also a manga that was released in 2012, but from my understanding, it didn't have similar art or anything else. So it didn't really feel like the series did. And there was actually some controversy about the series itself. If it's coming back to the universe, then it's such like a standalone story that's very small and encapsulated here versus I think what people really wanted to see was an expansion.
Right. Yeah. So interestingly, based on my look around, there have been some models of it, which is not a surprise at all. We've talked before about Gunpla and the massive industry that is robot models. Looks like there was a quote unquote building blocks model because they can't legally say Lego. But yeah, I can't seem to find a toy of it. So I'm sure there probably was at some point. Okay, no, yes, no, that's a Veritech. It's not an STF-1. Okay, yeah. So they only made Veritech's Valkyries because we talked about that during Transformers the movie, where Skyfire was a Veritech toy that got accidentally turned into Transformers. But yeah, I guess STF-1's never made a toy proper officially.
And I will give a shout out now in case any of our listeners have pull. If Robotech, and I'm saying Robotech, and you could say /Macross, but there's so many Macrosses now, it would be the same. So I'd say
Right.
Robotech Macross. That is an IP I want to write for and play in so much. I can't stress enough. I'd love to even make like the novels of it or TTRPG of it because I love the universe.
Have you actually read the novelizations of the original Robotech cartoon?
I have not read those.
Because so the guy who did the original cartoon put it together. did write a series of novels around the late 80s, early 90s. They were combined up because they're so thin. They were combined up into trilogies that are like about 300 pages.
Yeah.
Those trilogies apparently are now ebooks, and you can get them on like Amazon and Google Play and whatnot. 'Cause I've read a couple of them, and they're not bad. They're okay. Mm.
Well, anything else you want to talk about? You know what? So the movie edition, when it was released, was only available in Japanese audio, which is pretty fascinating still.
Right, because as I understand it, again, the way translation rights works is that um, so Manga Entertainment did the original English translation, and Manga Entertainment is a company that did a lot of the importing of anime into in the 90s. They did uh, Ninja Scroll. They did uh, um, Ghost in the Shell. A
I,
lot of the iconic ones. These are all off the top of my head because again, I watched the original, the digitization of the original tape, so they had the ads before and after of all the stuff that was coming out at that time
did
period.
they do Fatal Fury? Because this animation style reminds me of Fatal Fury.
I'm pretty sure they did Fatal Fury. They also did Pat Labor One, the original OVAs. So I was like, oh, look, Pat Labor. We just talked about that. But I was like, oh yeah, Ninja Scroll. I remember that was a thing.
I
So
remember liking Ninja Scroll, but I haven't seen it in 20 years. All
same.
right, you know what? We keep doing these big mecha runs. I think we're going to go back and do like a sword and sorcery anime run.
Is there
And Ninja Scroll is going
enough?
to be atop the list.
I'm trying to think. Is there enough? But actually, nowadays, there's enough anime that we could probably find enough to fill a subgenre.
We'll do what we do now. We'll limit it to like a specific decade. Like it might be 90s, it might be 80s.
Right, because I think Claymore maybe has an anime now. I'm pretty sure Berserk has an anime now. So anyway, yeah, this thing that we're talking about here.
What? Because we're more scattershot than you know what? This is our standard amount of scattershot. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into the series proper?
No, it's getting because we have 4 episodes to get through.
All right. Season 1, episode 1, and there's only one season. It's 2040, dedicated to all pioneers. Then the theme song drops, and we open with a futuristic windmills, a woman standing in a field watching two friends race. Then credits, Macross Plus. We hard shift to deep space in 2040. We're immediately in the middle of a space battle with Mecha. One of the Veritex pilots is obviously a hotshot, Dyson, who is a troublemaker and being instantly reassigned to Eden as a test pilot within minutes of this series starting. Hard mic drop. Boom.
It's so funny because it's like the commander's going, "You're a fuck up. This is we can't do anything with you, so we're gonna make you a test pilot." And even he is like, "That's not a punishment." And the commander's like, "Just pretend it's a punishment, would you?" Like, "Oh, fuck you, this is awesome." I'm like, "You have lost complete control of this guy already. It's been 5 minutes into the episode."
It's how one fails up.
Yes, exactly. But no, to your point, like, um, uh, I got more exciting anime mecha fighting in the first 5 minutes of this than we have in the past 2 seasons.
Wouldn't say. All right, it was more exciting than the war movie of the Gundam that we watched that was supposedly about mecha fighting, which struck me instantly and was also a little disheartening in one sense though.
Yeah, yeah, true. Pat Labor did have some good fight scenes, but frankly, this show, to your point, was like, no, yes, this is exactly the slice of mecha anime I like. It is exactly this kind of bullshit.
So for Pat Labor, it'd been hard to compare to this or really because Pat Labors were stuck on the ground, which
Right.
limits your ability to fight and how cool you can be with some of your graphics versus this, where they could be all in the air and fly and everything else. Even for Gundam, where they could had more mobility. So
Hmm.
that's hard. It's one of the reasons I don't think Southern Cross hits as well, is
It's
because
still
they have
ground
more
based.
tank style mechas and it
Yeah.
loses something in translation.
Right.
Um, Eddie, what I didn't know is that this was going to have flashbacks.
Uh huh.
And not
Uh-huh.
like one flashback and we're done, but repeated motifs of flashbacks. We've
Yep.
said it. I think it's pretty well established. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks. At least they were short. I will say that.
Right, but certainly it was a bit of like epic space battle and now Studio Ghibli bullshit. What the fuck is happening? There's a quaint little hang glider and then there's people running through a field and I'm like, what is going on right now? It does
In
explain.
my
There actually is a reason for all of this, but
yeah,
it was a bit of a shock.
and in my notes, I literally have a mention of the Wright brothers with the hang glider bike thing that he's on because I was curious about that.
Right, because like at first I thought maybe the whole thing was like this is the first flight and how that leads to the space stuff. And it's like, no, it's not. These are actually the characters we see later and as younger kids. And I'm like, so why are they using 19th century technology when they're in space? And it's
Yeah,
like, I get it. They're trying to shoot for in a very small space, idealized childhood and using this, quaint technology to kind of show this time in their lives. But it was such a jarring shift from pew, 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 pew.
and in the space battle, they have bayonets on the end of their rifles, and he stabbed a mech and it bled.
Yeah,
What is that? Is that
it's cool mecha stuff. But again, like as we talked before, like this isn't trying to be real because most of Gundam it would have been like we have to use bayonets because of the Matrinsky particles or whatever means we can't fire, and that's what and Macross is like, it would be cool if a robot stabbed another robot. That would be awesome. It's basically the vibe. Uh-huh.
And before I move on, this does literally have my note about Top Gun 2 being here. Like, there's
Yeah.
a whole nother little paragraph I was going to read, but I wanted to stop for this fight because it sets up everything. And I already don't like Dyson. And then suddenly, we're planetside with a new experimental craft merging man and machine. And that man and machine craft whooshes past Dyson, who's in transit to his new assignment. The Supernova project for the new variable fighter. And we get some team banter back and forth before the current test pilot and former friend Bowman arrives and then drops some sick burns on Dyson, who snaps and is very much a hot-headed jerk.
Um, so one thing I will say about Macross that I'm liking so far is that this is the first time we've had pilots of this ilk who are not teenagers, right?
Yeah, I
Pat
love it.
LeBoeuf was an adult, but that's a very different kind of vibe, right? In terms of this military fighter, everything else we've seen so far, they've been teenagers. And so this is the first time it's like, no, they're adults. But that makes Dyson worse because he's a grown ass adult acting like this.
Until you didn't remember Star-Lord, and then like, oh, yeah, that's a model for your supposedly attractive white late 20s, early 30s jerk pilots.
Right. I mean, and that again, it's Top Gun, right? It's the Maverick was that's my call sign, and it's like, okay, first that's not how call signs work, but also, you're just an asshole. And I fully believe the reason why he's called Maverick was not because everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's a Maverick. It was a cautionary tale, like, no, this guy's a Maverick. Stay the fuck away from him. That's why he got that call sign.
Oh, um, and we get our first black guy in the series right here. Boom.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Very excited
it's
to
a
see
main
that.
character. I was super excited. They had a black character in there, and I'm going to comment every time we watch anime. There's a black character because there aren't always a lot of them, and he has an important role.
And he has more than one speaking line. I mean, he's got quite a few. And also, mm, again, like using the Top Gun model, he's supposed to be the reluctant conservative authoritarian who doesn't let the main characters have fun. But yet, the whole time I was like, no, you're actually trying to run an efficient military unit, and this guy just keeps fucking it up for you. So I'm feeling for this commander like the whole time.
Yeah, right now I am,
It
and
does
so
change.
it
Yeah,
was a great little piece. But like you're saying, he is that chief who says you've got 48 hours to solve the case. Essentially, is what it
Right.
boils down to.
I'll take your gun and your badge. I'll take your Veritech. Right. but um, but one thing I found kind of interesting was this dynamic of course, we have to have a reason why the two test pilots have to face each other. Um, but it, to me, it read interestingly in the sense of like we have two models. We're actually not sure which model we're going to go with. We have two different bids functionally, and so we're testing these out against each other to see which one we want to put into production. And I'm like, that's actually how test piloting kind of works in my head, right? It's not just cool guys doing cool things and cool plans. It's no, we need to see we need to get two good pilots to get the best out of each of these to see which one we actually want to invest in as a military.
And the thing is that they're talking about they want to get the best, but if it's really government contracting, they're going to get the cheapest one in the end of the day.
Not true.
So it's, and I am going to point out that Bowman is right when he says that Dyson has no self-control. Essentially, right here, like that is my high point for Bowman occurs right here.
Right.
But already you can tell something's off with him a little bit. Anything else before we move on?
No, I think it's it.
Training montage. Instead, Dyson's a dick, but he gets a date somehow out of that meeting. We get some city shots before focusing on Myung Lone, the last of our initial trio, who is a producer of the robot pop star Sharon Apple. As she travels around the city, we learn that the forest and the hills remain, a weird point that is brought up and stressed repeatedly. There's more flirting with the researcher from Dyson. Bowman and Lone bump into each other at Star Hill and talk about the past before Dyson crashes the party with Lucy. The pair of test pilots are about to throw fist before Lone stops it and declares she's not the person she knew. She's not the person they knew before. Sometime later, Dyson and Bowman are testing their individual experimental crafts with various results. One is focused and the other a dick. Guess which one's which? Bowman is miles better than Dyson. During a near collision, Bowman sees into Dyson's mind, and we get a real example of the power of the YF-21. And Bowman accidentally destroys Bison's plane.
Right. I do want to get to that last scene in a bit, but I'll start at the top. Yeah, so Dyson's just kind of a jerk, and basically negs one of the women on the team until she agrees to go on a date with him.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wasn't a fan of that, but like how she reacted to it was kind of interesting to me because like she didn't just immediately go, "Oh, I love you." No, she's like, "Fine, whatever." And so she's like, it was kind of implied that she was doing it because like I got to show you around. I got to do this. Let's go do it, get it over with. It's not a date. And then finally she just laughs because he's being so stupid, and that ends up being kind of their way into having an actual relationship of some kind. So like it didn't come across as, "Oh, I found love your charms." The way she laughs is almost kind of hysterical. Like, I cannot believe you're saying this shit. I actually kind of liked that dynamic. I didn't like Dyson in it, but I liked the dynamic itself.
I almost took it for me more as if so they're essentially all in the military, and Dyson's a jerk who's putting the moves on her very badly, but she's also in the military, and they're both adults. And one of the things about the military is it has like a lot of high energy stuff. So she was down to party regardless of what Dyson was going to do because she thought
I
Dyson
see.
was
And
cute.
so like she was just trying to. She was like, "Can we just stop with the bullshit and get to what I want to do?"
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that
That's
too.
how I take it initially right here. But we all
Fair.
Dyson, and you're correct about Dyson negging because he also negs like the chief scientist about his age, like stuff like
Right.
that. This,
Yeah.
I don't like the character. Maybe it's
Right.
because I knew
Right.
people like that.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Um. And then we get to Sharon Apple, which I had to look as soon as the name came up. I had to pause it. Fiona Apple's first big album was 3 years before, so I was like, it has to be a reference to Fiona Apple.
And was it?
I don't know. That just
Okay.
never confirmed, but the last name is so distinctive. right?
And it's apparent they came to the US and they just took a whole bunch of stuff and went
Right,
back. So
right,
I agree with you. That sounds about right.
right. But so we get to Myung, and she's like, no one's ever seen Sharon Apple. She's a mysterious computer program. And Myung's like, no, I'm just a producer. And I'm like, okay, I've watched exactly one Macross. I know you're the singer. If this is supposed to be the mystery, you failed. Turns out they actually do something interesting with it. It's not a mystery for. I thought this was gonna be like the big serious mystery. It's like no, it's actually the only mystery for like a couple of episodes. So it's like okay, at least you weren't hinging your whole series on this. Because otherwise, I was gonna be really disappointed. Um, but again, like they're doing something interesting with that, which is that okay, yes, we have to have the pop star, but it's a computer program, and she's claiming to be just the producer, and so it gets more into the celebrity and the problems that come with that, and whatnot. So I was like, okay, they're doing something a little more interesting than the Min May naive, can we just all be friends approach.
Yeah. And so one of the things that the Sharon Apple does, I think there's something called like a Vocaloid in Macross, and essentially like a robot singer,
Oh, okay.
essentially. So that's what this is sort of a precursor to.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
There, and I don't know a lot about it, so it's about as much as I can go. It almost makes me envision like like a holographic singing of Tupac. I think that they did a couple of years ago,
Right.
like a decade now, something like that.
Yeah, they have a similar one with ABBA here in London, where they have a permanent installation where holograms of ABBA perform every night. So yeah, I think it's in the same kind of vibe.
Um, the Dyson and Bowman. I think that's where we're at because
Yeah, yeah.
there's an overall structural issue I have, I guess, with this is that the scenes are so short that it's harder to necessarily delve into them. I could have restructured everything so it all boiled down to like relationships versus test piloting, but then that would break the narrative of the thing itself. Because it seems to immediately go from um, three of them together, quick shot of test pilots, back to her, back to test pilots in a more jarring manner.
Right. It seems like they are trying to shoot for a montage approach. The idea is that Dyson and Bowman are over the course of days or weeks, maybe even months, are continuing to test each other. Um, but the problem is that there's not enough context clues to indicate that his relationship with what's her name? I forgot her name sadly. Um,
Lucy.
uh, Lucy, thank you.
It's mentioned like twice
Fair.
because
That seems to be the only way to kind of
in the
show that time
subtitles
has passed.
they call her researcher for a long time.
Wow, wow. I didn't have subtitles. There you go. So like, yeah, it's. I think it's the only way you can kind of tell the time's passing. I really, eventually, time's passing. But then when you get to the final fight, it's shot in a very similar way, in a very fast-paced way. I thought they were combining a bunch of fights together until I realized, oh no, wait, this is all one long fight. Long
Yeah.
in quotes here, but
And I still don't know if that thought that too, but then that doesn't work because it can't be weeks because if it's weeks, Lone would no longer be here because her and Sharon Apple would have gone somewhere else by this point in time. If they're like a visiting concert, concert doesn't stay for months at a time.
yeah, that's true. I didn't know. See, I wasn't sure because it implied that she was there for the 30th anniversary celebration. So she may have
No,
been there.
that's
No?
not yet. Like
Right, I
that's
know.
not
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah. I'm
yet.
saying it's like she's showing up early in the lead up to the 30th anniversary celebration. We don't know how much time that is. Like, it could very well be like, oh, I'll stay here. I'll just install for a month, do a few concerts before the celebration before I move on. Right.
So spoiler for two descriptions from now. Creepy scientist says, "Hey, we're going to the 30th celebration," and she's like, "What? We are?" And is
Oh, that's
surprised.
right. That's right.
So they're just like a touring concert, essentially, like around the galaxy.
Suffice to say, it's deeply confusing.
Yeah. So it's there, and could be something that you don't really notice, but we're here to think about specifically like how the scenes break down, how they interact with each other. And that is something that's already sort of standing out to me, watching that relationship and how they're trying to spiral everything together.
Right. But now the actual what's much more interesting to me, weirdly, is not the cool mecha fight, which was again very cool to watch. But was near the end where Bowman has Dyson kind of pinned in robot form, and because his the YF-21 is mentally controlled as opposed to physically controlled like the YF-19, um, he has a passing thought of, "Wouldn't it be great if I could just crush him right now?" And then the robot reacts, right? And it very much reminded me of like there have been times where like I have had a passing thought of either self harm or harming somebody else, and then I just let it go, right? Suicidal ideation or whatever. Nothing to the point where I've ever had to go into therapy or anything, but like, I occasionally have thoughts like this, and I've learned to just let them go. But certainly, if I had a device reading my every thought, something bad could really happen for those stray casual thoughts that humans just sometimes have because we can't control our thoughts all the time. And if you're really mad at someone, it's natural to think of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so if your device goes, "Yes, I'll respond to your thoughts. Yes, master. Oh, beat this guy to a pulp." Wait, no shit. Um, so like, but the problem is that the show at this point is then trying to kind of paint Bowman as some kind of monster as a result, and that's not how I read that scene. So
Well,
I had a bit of disconnect where it's like, oh, was I supposed to read this scene differently? Because it's not, and the show then goes a different direction entirely. So like, I think it was just again, it was maybe a translation error or the way this was all paced. But I really like the actual moment of the stillness, him having a moment to think, and then something horrible happens. It's an accident, but the way it was staged, it's very understandable that Dyson does not interpret it as an accident, which leads to the only point of conflict that actually made sense to me in this series between these two, beyond just being, I hate you, no, I hate you. Now it's like, okay, no, there's a genuine miscommunication here. A conversation will not actually easily solve.
I can see that, and that's good. The thing before all that happened is that Bowman had some sort of incident in his own thing and was going to crash, and Dyson was literally going to watch him die until ordered to save him.
Right.
And that's how we get Bowman then like on top of Dyson's thing because Dyson was ordered to save him and not watch him die.
Right. But it's a good point. That adds more context to it. But still, its point is like, so Bowman's like, you will let me die, so I'm mad at you. But this experimental tech reacted badly to that instinct, whereas Dyson, because he's an arrogant hothead, uh, assumes that this is about him, right? So like it's. I'm not saying that both people are in the right. I'm just saying is, given what we know about each of their characters at the end of this episode, they are both logical places for them to be that put them in odds, and neither of them are going to be inclined to discuss it out because neither of them has an adequate explanation for their shitty behavior. So that
Yeah.
leads to interesting drama, which is actually weirdly not that common when we do these analysis. Because so many times we've had some form of, why don't these two just sit and talk for 5 minutes and there'd be no movie or story or whatever. In this case, you say no, that's actually not a viable solution to this problem. So that's actually genuinely interesting.
So if you had to fly one of these, would you prefer the 19 or the 21?
Yeah, see, like it's hard because like the show very clearly wants you to support the 19 for lots of reasons they'll get into in later episodes, but the
Okay.
21 is really fucking cool.
Yeah. Like he flexes his feet and like the little jet things move
Yeah,
with it. Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Next, anything before we move on to brainwaves?
Let's move on. Yeah.
The music's rocking as Lone is unconscious, feeding her emotions into Sharon Apple, an artificial intelligent pop star preparing for a concert on Eden. Millard Johnson, the colonel, I think his rank was chief once and colonel at the time, questions Bowman about the accident, who says it's the BDS system, but the colonel is skeptical. I was right. Look at that. At the concert, Dyson watches the chief engineer briefly hack into the AI from his wrist monitor. After the concert, creepy scientist grills Lone about her mental conditioning and no one can learn that the AI is incomplete.
Got a little lost at this point, I'm gonna be honest.
What?
I mean, I followed what was going on, but it seems like 2 completely different cartoons were happening at the same time. Again, later on, they do
They
dovetail.
merge.
Right. But right now it's like 50% of the show wants to be Top Gun, 50% of the show wants to be Blade Runner 2049. And at this point, they don't really connect, you know?
Um, you're absolutely right. Although watching the concert, I was like, is this a Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd concert? Do I need to be high to really be getting into this? The music's awesome, but look at all the visuals and everything else going on. And like I said, I watched it last night. So the kiddo was doing homework in the room, and I was like, I can't remember. Does this have nudity? Should I not be watching this right now?
Right. And it
So
kinda does.
yeah. So I fast forwarded through little bits of the concert scene because the kid's in the other room. I just could never walk in, and I need to finish it before it showed up. But I didn't miss anything other than thinking if I used drugs like that, I would go and take them and then watch that concert on repeat for like 2 hours.
Right. But I mean, I feel I made the Blade Runner 2049, and I see in your notes you made a similar reference, because the big hologram advert that reaches down to touch him, it feels like that was an homage specifically to Macross Plus, or at least in the same oeuvre, because
Yeah.
there was definitely a lot of and again, the nudity in that was obvious, but also not lingered on, and it's kinda the same thing here where, like, there's no detail in anything, but, like, by the outlines, everything, it's very clear that she's nude, so, like, it's I don't tasteful is not quite the right word, but it's, illustrative rather than, demonstrative nudity. It's like it gives the illusion of nudity without actually being nude.
And what's interesting also is the fact that all the people are wearing these little wrist bracelets that are feeding their essential emotions and how they're gauging the concert into the artificial intelligence,
Right,
which is horrific when you think about it. And then you think that like that is something that would never happen until you think about where we are now. And you're like, I could see that happening tomorrow.
right, yeah. Um, uh, but again, like, it was a kind of a weird beat because it's like, "Oh, no, this extremely popular pop idol that no one's seen, everyone loves her," which is fine, but then I was like, "Are these devices mind control? Is that why everyone loves her?" Because, like, I immediately assumed it was nefarious, and it was, but again, not for the reasons I thought. Um, then it's like, "Oh, no, they're feeding their emotions into the AI," and I was like, "Okay, but why?" And then in the middle of this, you have this guy who's just this extremely powerful cutting edge AI, and that some guy on his wrist is just kind of hacking into her arbitrarily for reasons.
He's our chief
So
scientist, though, Eddie, of the 19. So obviously he could do anything.
right, because as we all know, science has one single discipline, and anything that involves towards science can be used by anybody. And
Yeah.
not the fact that building a military plane is in any way completely distinct from entertainment software design.
What I do love though is they took the stadium cam essentially and found them. So that was pretty cool to see a
Right,
futuristic stadium cam.
right, yes. Um, and again, like Dyson's being such a dick about it because this guy's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna, hack into him." Dyson's concern isn't, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't crash this thing that my childhood friends have spent your entire career on." No, he's just like, "Hey, I'm enjoying this. Stop fucking with the show."
Oh, I do need to pause there because that is a big piece of Lone's story arc.
Yeah,
Um, Creepy scientist is really creepy. In the fully repaired YF-19, Dyson is amazed by its capabilities. Yahoo! Bowman and Dyson train side by side for a montage of an unknown amount of time. Johnson gives Dyson some tough love, and Dyson storms off. And Johnson smiles, knowing the test pilot is a good guy. We flash over to Lone and her friend having dinner before another fucking flashback in the best karaoke room ever. Lone freaks out when asked to sing by her friend Kate and her husband Morgan and their 2 kids. Kate fails to secretly call Dyson, but did get in contact with Bowman, who shows up after Lone has fled. Later that night, both Dyson and Bowman receive a call saying a fire will break out in the concert hall. Oh, right. I love that she has a black friend. More black
Yes.
people. I love them.
Yeah, yeah, no, and again, another black character with dialogue. She has a place in this thing. That's great. Um, but now I'm kind of starting to see bits and pieces of how this is supposed to hang together. Right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, there is a plan here. It's not just random bullshit. I'm a little more engaged along for the ride because like her reluctance to sing, I'm like, all right, there's a reason why she can't let people know she's the actual singer behind this. There's an actual mystery here. Cool, great. And I have to say, as much of a dick as Dyson is, I do enjoy the fact that he genuinely loves being a pilot, right? So many of these mecha anime pilots are reluctant soldiers who don't want to be involved, and maybe they enjoy the process of being it, but like they're in gritty war, doing gritty war things. And Dyson's like, I think piloting a mecha is fucking awesome. And it's like, you know what, dude? Mood.
Yeah. And he doesn't care if it's as a test pilot or as a combat pilot.
Right. Right. This is just a thing he loves. And not even in a sometimes we in these shows we get the I love this, but in a pure way. He's like, no, I love blowing shit up. I love fight. The whole package, everything involved with being a mecha pilot. I just think it's great. And my entire personality is based around this concept, which is the big part of his problem as a person. Um, and so like it's genuinely a joy to be him. And he's like, "Yahoo! This is awesome!" And it's like I made a joke of it, but like it is. It's nice to see. It's like there's something you do care about besides women and being an asshole.
And this is another shot, though. This is another piece where both Lone breaks down again, like she broke down in the first episode when confronted with them fighting, saying how it was before, and then she breaks down here when they're asked about her to sing. So it's a reoccurring character beat for her, which, as a viewer, I was hoping that she'd have a stronger character to sort of blend more with both Bowman and Dyson, who seem to have very strong personalities.
This is I admit this is something that I was getting worried about at this point. You're right, because it's a case of I was going, is this another fucking Min-May where she's gonna break down every 5 seconds? Again, later on this gets subverted a bit, so it pulls out a bit in the end, but certainly it is a lot of for being a manager of a very popular music act, you're not very good at taking criticism, which seems like a big part of your job.
Yeah. And we get more of the chief engineer and his obsession with the AI. Like that is still consistently throughout. But this is a point for Dyson. Dyson really seems to like to hang out with the people that he's working with. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Inside the studio, a fire just starts as Lone is trapped inside, and the camera records everything. Bowman slams against the door until bloody, and then it just opens, allowing him to save her. Back at his place, he treats her smoke inhalation before we get a shirtless medical scene and they reconnect. Back at base, the medical report of Bowman's brain show he's resisting the normal fighting response in his intrati blood. Before Johnson shreds the report and says, keep this quiet. Bowman and Dyson's rivalry intensifies into a mecha training battle.
This is where actually the show got me back on board, honestly, because again, I thought I knew where it was going. I was like, of course, Dyson and Lona are gonna hook up, and they're gonna be. And no, actually, what happens is more it's Bowman who like very clearly has an emotional connection with her and her with him. And I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. Like, so he's doing the more heroic stuff, and Dyson just they both get the same reports, and we kind of glossed over this because it was more. Maybe we're talk about it here, but like it's the they both get the strange call saying, in half an hour, fire's going to start. And Dyson's like, whatever, kind of just blows it off. He's concerned, but not like super concerned. Whereas Bowman's like, we have to go there immediately, right? And so again, like my instinct was, so Dyson's gonna make it there, and he's gonna be the hero, and Bowman's gonna just be mad about it. No, actually, Bowman just straight up 100% is the hero here. And so I was like, that's interesting, and got me suspecting was like, is this a test of some kind?
Yeah.
All right. Why those two men specifically get it? And first I was like, I don't understand why that matters. And oh, she's there. Okay, they're both encouraged to rescue her. Well, that's interesting. One of them clearly succeeded, and one of them clearly failed. So now I'm seeing how the two mysteries are tying together a bit more.
And when you have Bowman talking to her, he's like, it's strange because I even got it on my car phone. Like, it's almost like
Yeah.
no one else has that number to reinforce it.
Right. Now, so at this point, I was thinking, oh, it's the scientist that's doing all of this, right? Because he's so obsessed with the AI, and I'm like, if she's connected to the AI, he's obsessed with her, and he's doing all of this because he's obsessed with her. Turns out I'm wrong. Just spoiler. But at this point, this show's like, okay, there's a lot of confusing stuff in the first episode and the first chunk of this episode, but by this point in time, at the halfway point, it is starting to actually pull together. And I'm like, okay, good. Because I was genuinely thinking, like, if by episode 2 I don't understand what's going on, this might be hard for me to get through. It's like, okay, no, I'm actually on board. I see what's happening. I don't agree with everything that's happening, but I do like it. And I'm annoyed at Zentradi are basically Klingons. So of course they have to they're fight. They're natural fighters, and they fight because they fight. It's like, whatever. But you know,
Eddie,
if you're
we
gonna do
know,
that, this is an interesting way of doing it.
but we know that the Zentradi are a genetically engineered race, but I forgot the name of the other race that made them to fight wars for them to send them out to collect the protocol ship.
The something
Yeah,
nature. Yeah, I'm talking about.
hard, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I vaguely remember them, but they made this and tried to go fight. So
right.
I don't
No,
like
yeah.
it, but they built it into their lore.
Well, that's the thing. Is I'm not mad at Macross Plus. It's just a trope I don't like. Right.
Yeah.
But my point was like, if Macross Plus is going to deal with this trope, at least they're doing something interesting with it in the sense of, his instinct is not his instinct was just to rescue someone he cares about. So his fighting blood just changes the tactic he would use, which is he tries to batter a door down. And so again, there's interesting, like I said, it just opens, and at this point, the show is not making a big deal of that, right? It's not like it's oh, that's so weird. It just kind of happens. But then afterwards, he makes a straight comment of like, I don't know, the door just opens. Maybe I knocked something loose or whatever. So like it's interesting. We're looking at this after talking about some mystery stuff because like my mystery brain's still here a bit, and so it's like some of these clues are obvious, some of these clues are subtle, but I was able to catch myself thinking that way enough to go, okay, there's actually is a mystery here. Clearly, my mystery brain is actually engaging with it, so that's more than I expected from this show.
And like I said, I had no point of reference for this show, so I didn't know that Bowman wasn't half Zentradi yet, or whatever. I didn't
Mhm.
know that because they hadn't told me. I just knew that like they kept playing with his coloration. It was weird,
Yep.
and he was just sort of analytical. So one of my notes I immediately have because I put how strong is Bowman when I see like the door slam on top of him, he just
Right.
doesn't break. And then goes Zentradi. I go, oh, but I had in my notes. I kept it there.
Yeah.
The
Good job.
Scooby-Doo style battle between the two of them. And I meant from how like Scooby-Doo would run in a door and come out the other door and then show them go through building, come out of this
Right.
building, go through building. And the Kirk kick in a mecha. Oh, I laughed, I squeed, and I loved it all at once.
Well, and that's one thing that I did enjoy because like again, unlike Mobile Suit, where the comedy is far and few between if it's ever there. It seems like Macross is okay with occasionally doing a gag to kind of help punctuate the drama.
Yeah, that's how you should do it. It works. Anything else about their fight other than the end result that we're about to get into?
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
Explosion! The sound of sirens as Dyson recovers over the course of 2 days. Lone is by his bedside. She says that both Kate and Morgan left last night, but she stayed here in case he died. Meanwhile, an investigation is launched into Bowman and Dyson's fight. Dyson's YF-19 had live ammo, but it was Bowman's YF-21 that fired it. He claims that Dyson's crew must have put it in the gun so they could shoot him. And then there's some back and forth, but Johnson pulls a rabbit out of his hat and they blame everything on supply and maintenance. And the entire investigation is closed down in less than 2 minutes. And in the elevator, Johnson tells Bowman that the new vision of the space roll order is to not have pilots or anything else. So right now we're necessary evil. Meanwhile, Dyson and Lone make a break from the hospital to the nature area for some serious bonding time. More talk about their past together and how reckless he is. Then he sees a giant bird and runs off.
You're reckless. No, I'm not. Oh, bird. And
What
that's the
the
point where
actual fuck?
No, dude, no. That's when I realized Dyson's a Labrador. Because everything about Dyson makes sense. If he's just a Labrador. He's just like, I'm not that. Ooh, ball. I have to go get the ball. I gotta get the ball. I like flying.
Jesus.
Flying is fun.
And so I was saying how I like their older characters, so they're probably in like their mid-20s to maybe early 30s, but how Dyson acts, that doesn't jive. Even with my joke about Star-Lord, Dyson feels like a 14, 15-year-old at best.
No, that I agree with. That I agree with. It does feel like a decision was made to age the characters up, but all the people writing it are still used to writing in a very specific mold.
Like he got caught in Lion-O's cryo tube, and
right.
He is a full-grown man with the mind of a 13-year-old.
Right. That's actually a really good analogy. Sure.
So, the investigation and Dyson being shot and it being closed broke all semblance of realism that it had completely. Like there's nothing. Like I got totally lost me right there.
And like the reason is like this is gonna matter anyway because we're all gonna be replaced with AI, which granted hits in 2025 a certain way, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's like one of your test pilots nearly murdered the other, and you're not even like pretending you're just covering it up. You're literally telling everyone we're going to cover this up now, and everyone goes, "Okay, we're covering it up now." And so at this point, I was convinced that the colonel was like a bad guy and in on it somehow.
Yeah.
Turns out, no, he's just tired of paperwork. Apparently, is the answer.
Well, we'll find out next in a couple minutes why he did all this. I like the fact that they have him do this really shady thing, and then they go and they instantly explain it before the end of the episode. Like this is why he did that.
Sure. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get there. I don't find that explanation satisfying, but we'll get there.
Oh, it wasn't at all. But
but again, like going back to kind of Lone and Dyson, like again, I appreciate because like she was at the bedside, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a love triangle. This is gonna suck. But really, the vibe was just like, you big dumb idiot. You might die, and everyone else has gone home. I'm staying here because you're a big dumb idiot. Which again, Dyson's a Labrador. It's like, I'm sorry. You know.
A small thing I really like is that the motorcycle that Dyson and Lone essentially steal is a medical motorcycle. It's not his motorcycle from earlier. It's totally irrelevant thing, but it's a small detail that I love. Like it's the details that make things awesome for me.
No, totally. And I just love the fact that the director's going, okay, going to the artist team, it's like, I need one of you to design. We have all these cool vehicles. One of you design a medical motorcycle. And someone's like, I am on it, boss. And they made the most badass medical motorcycle they possibly could. All right. And it's just like, there's like a half second where I was like, there's no medical service in the world that would find, who cares? why am I thinking too hard about this? It just looks cool. That's the whole point of it.
You're at a war, Eddie. You could have that. They're test pilots. You could need to get from point A to point B super quick, and a badass motorcycle is the fastest way to get there.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Right. I'm not even mad about it. It's just like that. Fine. I love it. Let's do
It's
it.
the logic behind the fact that if he's wounded in the actual testing facility, there's no way that his motorcycle would be at the hospital. But they need to have Dyson, Tom Cruise, on a motorcycle to look
Right.
cool. So how do we fix that? We give him a medical. Oh, totally relevant, tells a whole story that no one else cares about but me.
Right.
Explosions in space. As a ship captain casually drinks his coffee, back on Eden, Bowman goes to the hospital to visit Dyson, only to find him returning with Lone. The pair fight again as a computer eye watches the drama unfold. As the three go their separate ways, Apple starts appearing on screens throughout the city. As creepy scientist tells Lone Sharon Apple is complete and they have a concert on Earth tomorrow. A shocked Lone goes, tomorrow? Colonel Johnson cancels the project as the government is going with an unmanned fighter instead. Dyson and Engineer steal the YF-19 to crash the Ghost introduction. Creepy scientist kills CEO so Sharon Apple can go live. Lone flees knowing what happened, but is trapped by Sharon Apple, and it captures her and begins to torture her. End of episode.
Right. So,
One of my favorite parts about this is that there's a thing that's here, and I read parts of it, and then I go in my own direction, and Eddie's like, "Where's that word? That's not on the notes. What are
yeah.
you doing?
Well, I mean that's fine. You could do your own thing. I did watch it. I do know what happened. So it's not
Are
like
you sure? I
you're
heard you
making
watched a
stuff
different
up.
episode
It's
4.
not. It's not like you're hallucinating. What actually happened here.
I heard you watched a different episode 4. So what if I don't read the notes?
This
What
is
happens then?
episode 3,
Huh?
though.
Huh?
This is episode 3.
Technicalities.
Oh, but yeah. So again, this is like I said. Colonel Johnson's like, no, we're just canceling this project because the government decided we're not going to have manned pilots and we're going to have unmanned pilots because AI. And it's like at this point, it's okay. Now I see the pilot, the lighters have AI, and the AI singer has gone rogue. Okay, now I'm seeing how everything connects together. But again, from what I have seen on the screen, the reason why Johnson canceled the investigation into one of his pilots possibly murdering the other is because he doesn't want to deal with paperwork. It's like this
Well,
project's
no.
canceled anyway, so why doesn't matter.
He I think he says that he was hoping that they could get their thing to a state where he could show it before the unmanned pilot was ready. So he was going for timing because he needed to get his project out before the unmanned pilot project was completion. And something that we didn't hit on that shows up sporadically. I keep mentioning creepy scientist. Creepy scientist has been making a deal with the military for some biochip that they implant into Sharon AI. That's important. It's
Right,
not in the
right,
notes, but
right.
biochip.
But like, yeah. So I mean, I get that, but it doesn't covering up the investigation doesn't change that timetable, right? Uh, uh, he could postpone it, right? He could say, like, listen, we don't have time for this investigation now. We need to finish this project. Once this project is complete, then we will go into the investigation. Something like that,
I
right?
don't think you can postpone an investigation like that. You could cancel it, but you can't like put it on hold.
Okay, all right. Suffice to say, it all landed a bit weird for me. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah. Oh, I totally agree, 100%. But I am understanding what they're saying by canceling it. He doesn't have to waste months of time running down a fake investigation where they could be instead using their planes.
Sure.
Essentially, is what it goes down to.
And again, like, and maybe I think part of the problems also is that he actually had an excuse right there, which was that Bowman said, "Hey, my fighter failed." If the point was Johnson wanted to cancel the investigation, he could say, "Cool, great, technical error, let's move on." But he doesn't. He discounts it and then cancels the investigation.
But then it goes, but they make a point of saying that then Bowman was doing it manually. So Bowman would have been the one that fired. So he's like, ooh, no.
Right.
We got to.
And regardless, I mean, we're now getting slightly quibbles here, but the point is like, I actually, in the moment, didn't actually care a ton because I was actually more interested in okay. I didn't expect that neither model was actually going to go forward. There's a third model that no one knew about, Which does feel exactly like government bullshit, right? It's like, yeah, we told you to test these 2 things, but actually you both of them were a control group for the secret 3rd thing that we didn't fucking tell you about, and by the way, that's actually the thing we're going with, so scrap all the shit you just did. That does feel pretty accurate to me.
And you're talking about mystery structures. That feels a lot like a mystery where they
Yep.
don't tell you all the clues, and the
Mhm.
killer was actually the person in the other room that you never saw. Are we talking
Right.
about?
Right.
What?
It's not a good mystery, but at least it is a mystery, which is more than I expected. But then, of course, you
Oh,
know, Sharon Apple goes live because that's what happens in these movies all the time. It's like, that was a surprise. It's like, okay, when is this going to happen? About the end of episode 3. That's about the right time for this to happen.
and as a general, like, need to know, our Yo Joe moment of the episode is going to be never hire creepy scientists. Like, hands down, if you get weird vibes from your scientists that you hired, you fire them and get someone else. Just
Um, Although this is actually a good point. Something that I was actually confused by going through all of this. There's a lot of references to a Macross corporation. Who are they in all of this? I don't think I ever figured that out. Are they the people who made the ghost?
my assumption is yes, but I don't know. Like I said, I have a spotty history of Macross. So,
Right, because they kept mentioning. First of all, they mentioned Macross a couple times, and I was like, "Is Macross a place?"
well, there's Macross City, then it's a Macross SDF1,
Right,
and you
right,
mentioned Macross Corporation. There's like Macross Lake. So it's all
right.
there.
But they didn't have a qualifier at first. They just mentioned Macross, and I was like, "Okay, I remember Macross City from Robotech." So I was like, "But this isn't Macross City. This is a different place. Like, is that there's your?" And then they mentioned that later on, episode 2-ish, they mentioned Macross Corporation. I'm like, okay, in 30 years, I could see after the events of Robotech that the people who studied the SDF-1 built a corporation out of the technology. That makes sense to me, right? But again, they were just throwing around like everyone knows how Macross Corporation fits into all of this. And then as we go and say, okay, there's at least one nefarious corporation here. Is it the Macross Corporation? Because if so, that's a really dark take on what happened in Robotech.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know if that's true or not. I'm sure it explained at some point of a casual line here and there, but I actually was a little lost at that point.
I don't think this movie explained it.
Okay. It
So,
wasn't just me then.
and
Good.
the thing is, if essentially in this movie we have one villain who is a creepy scientist. Because for
Right.
all we know, the people that he got the biochip from, he just paid them and they didn't know what the fuck he was doing. But hey, you gave me some money, so thanks.
Yeah,
And
actually, and
he
actually,
has a vision to do all this.
now that you say it, I think he may have bought it from the Macross Corporation. That might be how this all ties together.
Because it's
Now that you say
all
it that
his
way.
vision to make Sharon AI something. Like we don't even know what his full vision is or scope.
Right. So the engineer is basically Sam Altman. Yeah, I got that. That's not a problem. Um. Uh. So okay. All right. But yeah, like the ghost thing kind of comes out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere from a plot perspective, but from a theme perspective, it didn't surprise me because like
Yeah.
you have one ship that is piloted by a human, one ship that's kind of piloted by a human and kind of piloted by a computer, and then there's a separate thread of an AI going rogue. Inevitably, that AI is going to control a ship. I thought they was going to control. She was going to control the YF-21, but it's like no, there's a whole third ship. Okay, and this makes sense why the two fighting pilots can now work together. So, okay, I see now where the last episode is kind of gonna land. And I
Yeah.
was very
And
satisfied with it.
and they would and I knew they were gonna have to introduce something. I didn't know if it was gonna be the ghost, but they're fighting each other. They haven't killed each other by the end of episode 2. So I knew they had to introduce some sort of other element where they'll eventually fight together
Right,
to beat. Like that's kind of how stories work to some sense. Because
right,
he wasn't
right,
going to kill Bowman, and Bowman wasn't going to kill him.
right. I was a little worried that the Bowman plot was going to be the Zentrabi took control of him somehow because of the Zentrabi blood and made him work against them. But thankfully, no, that was not the plot. But
I
however, speaking of awkward plots, um, when Lone gets captured by Apple and wrapped up, that's a bit sexual.
It did remind me of Overfiend quite a bit.
Yes, that was exactly what went through my head too.
And if you don't know what Overfiend is, Google it, but
Don't look
not
it
on
up.
your work computers.
Don't look it up. But no, the way she was squeezed and like the way that her breast kept getting thrust out during that, I'm just like, that's not necessary. We didn't need to do that. We were doing really good to this point.
In the way, I think she rips off her like coat or something somewhere along
Yeah.
the way too. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. I'm just gonna jump to the last episode and we can like
Okay.
recap everything.
Right.
Because this is where I'm curious how much we're like, look at that concert. While it plays, everything goes to shit in space. And the crew of whatever the ship is consider going to DEF CON 3. I'm sorry, they are actually aboard the SDF 1. So
Yeah.
I wasn't
Right.
sure
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
They actually do. I say have one of the mothballs. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Lone and Apple debate what it means to be alive versus a program before it tries to kill her. Dyson and Bowman dogfight in Earth orbit for a bit as we get a flashback to 7 years ago. It's all Bowman's fault, having blocked to suppress his memories. He essentially attacked them and was going to assault her. Then Apple attacks the ghost ship and mind controls the guard to attack Sharon, who's trying. Sorry, Sharon mind controls everyone there. She has guards try to kill Lone. Both Bowman and Dyson decide that Bowman should go and fight the ghost while Dyson goes to Macross to try to save Sharon. There's some more mind control stuff. The chief engineer gets mind controlled and tries to shoot Dyson in the head, but doesn't work, gets ejected. And in the end, Dyson gets mind controlled, but then he remembers the song that Lone sung to him a lifetime ago, regains control, breaks up the mind control pod inside of the SDF-1, and it ends with Lone waving at Dyson flying through the air.
Yeah.
Eddie, your entire face told the whole story that no one else can see. It is beautiful.
I mean, you said a lot of stuff there, and it's true. All of that happens, but I actually don't have a ton to say about this episode because it's either exactly what you expect to happen at this point in time, or it's not, and it's worse. Right? Like, of course, the AI is going to control everybody at the concert because we had the evil bracelets in episode 1. No problem. Expect that to happen. Of course, the evil scientist obsessed with the AI is the person behind the AI going rogue. Not a shock at all. Of course, we have 2 fighters. One of them's going to fight the possessed ship. One of them's going to fight the ghost. Totally not a problem. Dyson saving Lone, it was like, why isn't Bowman doing that? We just established 2 episodes ago that Bowman is the one who's more obsessed with her. Right?
But
And then
Bowman can't save Lone because Bowman is the bad guy who almost assaulted her and punched out Dyson. So these are our 2 white protagonists, Eddie. We can't have this weird hybrid person having a happy ending.
which is where I started to get a little uncomfortable with the whole thing because it was like the story demands these 2 together, even though nothing about the characters' plots, position, or anything about the show indicates they should be together. It's like, no, that at best, Dyson and Lone are friends. And I'm fine with that. But that's not, but the show's like, no, they have to be romantically interested together. They have to, one has to save the other. And it's just like, but do we?
Yeah.
You know? And yet, I did enjoy it. This is so weird to me because like everything up to this point, the first 3 episodes, I more or less understood. I mean, I made a lot of I don't understand this jokes, but like the first 3 episodes I more or less enjoyed. Right? It was like fast paced, went along. I was like, yes, it's exactly what I wanted to. And then when I saw this 4th episode, I was like, yeah, this should have been edited into a movie because a lot of the padding is in this 4th episode, I think.
Yeah.
Because this was a 15-minute climax that got stretched out to 45 minutes. And some of it is like Lone and Apple more or less repeating the same conversation we saw in Ghost in the Shell, right? Of like,
And not
this
as
needs
well.
to be human. No, just she's the evil computer. We don't need to have this conversation, right? Lone briefly getting to be a badass. I mean, she got a gun and she shot some people. So that's kind of cool. But then she becomes a damsel in distress again. It's like, ah, damn it, you were so close. You were so close to something there, and then you just didn't. And then like, oh no, all those memories we had of kids randomly sick. That was us all. Like, well, yeah, because there's really no other characters it could have been. Why is this a plot point? We buried those memories. You buried the memories of flying a fucking kite with a guy strapped to it? What was so terrible about those memories? You know, it felt like they had to pad this out a bit more, and it just didn't. And also, it's a bit of like I enjoyed the SDF-1 come back into service, but it felt very fan servicey, you know?
So, and much like you, I don't know why I enjoyed it. So at the end of the day, I have to say that you made something I enjoyed. I have some problems with it, but there's a tactical point. There's no way that Dyson, his little lone variable fighter, could have avoided the mini shots from the SDF-1. Like, I can't get past it.
Right,
And you could say that, well, maybe Sharon Apple didn't want to kill Dyson. Not true, because she'd mind control Dyson and crash his fucking plane. So at the end of
right,
the day, that there are consistent plot holes that the cool factor sort of paves over most of for me.
right. Um, and again, while I said before, this is just a Macross trope, and I have to, in some degree, accept it, but I still struggle with the power of song stops technology. Because this is now 2 shows now where someone's song stops actual science from happening.
What they could say though, Eddie, is that it's a love story, and true love won the day.
So what you're saying, Chris, is the power of love is a curious thing.
Yes.
One man weep, another man sing.
All right, let's just wrap this up. What are your closing thoughts on Macross Plus?
Um, for all of that, of the shows we've watched so far, is the one I've enjoyed the most. Um, because as I think we've kind of articulated, uh, both about at the top of the episode, but as a podcast in general, genre is turtles all the way down on some level, right? Like you always find a
Yeah.
sub genre. And I think we've kind of both hit on the fact is that we do like our mecha anime to be more Top Gun and less tanks, right? I mean, I think we just kind of agreed to that. And so I guess this is something I'm more inclined to. I do like swoopy robots doing cool stuff. Um, and having a bit of a plot to it and throwing a mystery in. I love mysteries, so like that's also really cool. And there's some interesting melodrama here for the most part. So like, yeah, they had a lot of problems. And certainly I don't know if I'd seek it out again per se. Although I'm with you, I would be curious to see if the movie would tighten up some of these problems we're having. So certainly some subplots that could just be excised. But you know, does this make me want to go see more Macross? Maybe. I don't know yet. I have to think about it.
So I guess my stance is I'm trying to figure out if I would recommend this to other people for, and I'll come back to that. For me personally, I enjoyed it, but I'm inclined for Macross because of Robotech. I've
Sure.
I've
Right.
established that early on, so it
That's your
has
fandom.
an easier buy-in for me. There are some definite plot issues that I have with it, and I definitely don't like how they did Bowman. But from a purely did I enjoy it standpoint, yes. But I also think in future, if we were to do another mecha run, part of it's going to boil down to we need to redefine how we do mecha, because I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare Pat Labor to Macross. Like
Sure.
that is not a fair comparison if we're looking at them together, because they're
And
mecha in them, but they're more bodysuits versus mecha.
well, and I think that's one of the things that's interesting about doing this podcast is that prior to us doing both this short run and the original long run, I wouldn't have even known there was a distinction, right? But now through us going through this, it's like, no, it's very clear there are subgenres. We joked about the super robot, we talked about the more military one, but even then, we're finding again, it's turtles all the way down. So like by picking some stuff that we weren't quite familiar with and just trying it and seeing, we're discovering our tastes. It's like, okay, we do like this, we don't like that. I enjoyed Pat Labor, but I mean, I think just in pure from watching standpoint, I definitely enjoyed Macross more. So I was like, yeah, I probably would watch more Macross than anything else. So like, yeah, I think I prefer this kind of thing. And you're right, like Bubblegum Crisis is technically mecha, but I wouldn't put it anywhere near any of these shows, right?
No, but I put it with actually I'd put it more in the Macross, not Macross. I put it more in the Pat Labor vein because
Right. Hmm.
they're battle suits and they're
Right.
essentially fighting crime. Pat Labor's in battle suits essentially fighting crime. I'd also
Right.
put potentially Dominion Tank Police around there too. Stuff like
Appleseed.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
But I would put Gundam and Macross together and compare any day of the week.
Right, right, but, like, do those sit with Voltron? Not really, you know? And then there's a whole bunch of other mecha shows that we haven't even touched on yet. Like, there's a whole
Yeah,
subgenre now of alien transforming robots, right? I mean, there's now at least 3 shows I know of that fall in that category. So, I
and
mean, yeah,
I think I'd put Martian something Nadesco in the Macross Gundam category too.
okay.
So it's not quite the right name of it, but it's like Martian something Nadesco that has a Minmay S character who is a military leader and a whole bunch of other stuff. It
Oh,
was on my list
no.
of stuff that we almost watched.
No.
In a story, I would recommend Macross Plus to people with a caveat. And if I had to rank the things that we currently watched in order, it would be the exact reverse order. Like Macross Plus is first, Pat Labor is second, and that Gundam movie is last.
Right. Um, and speaking of things that are kinda like, those 2 other things, um we'll watch next the end of Evangelion, which was one of the many, many, many Neon Genesis Evangelion movies made after people were mad about the ending. So, once again, we're gonna watch the Netflix version. So we're on the same page on that front, because again, this is the one that had was redubbed in 2019, and this is one of the several quote true endings to Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Eddie, if people want to support you and give you more kudos or come at you for not appreciating that Gundam movie, where can they do that?
You can find me on Blue Sky. That is at pugsteady.com, which is also my website where you can buy stuff like my amazing dog game, Rumps Pugmire, which you also find at rumpugmire.com. Or you can find me on the Darker Hue Discord. How about you?
You can find me at darkstudios.com. You could come buy a copy of Haunted West, or you could go to Arc Dream and buy some of the Great Delta Green stuff, or you could come join in the playtest for Black Company that could still be going on right now. I don't know. But if you want to chat with me, you can come into the Dark Hue Discord. And if you want to complain about the Gundam movie or any of our hot takes, you can go on to Blue Sky and contact Pugsteady.
With that, we will talk to you next week where I go through all of my mentions and we talk about the end of Evangelion.